he sits at his kitchen table. He opens up his phone, and then he draws a line across the satellite image of his farm. That's it. Puts the phone away and goes back to his coffee. A few kilometers away, one of his cows approaches this hypothetical line that he's just drawn on the image. She hears a sound from her collar. She instantaneously turns around. And she's done this enough times before that she's already spun around 180 degrees before the noise in the collar stops. Nobody was physically moving her. She just turned as if it was normal. So the company we're talking about today is called Halter. They make solar-powered smart collars for cattle. And you say, why is this relevant to humans? I'll try and draw a parallel later in the episode. But let me explain what these collars actually do. So as I said in the beginning, the farmer, they draw a boundary on an area of land. And when a cow approaches that boundary that's been drawn, it pings the collar with some directional sound. If she keeps going towards the line, then the collar also starts vibrating. Mind you, this is not designed to be harmful for the animal. And it's very different from a shock collar. But the cattle, they learn to associate the sound that they hear with turning back. With enough repetitions, it can just be the sound. It doesn't have to go to vibrations or pulse mechanisms. They've kind of learned. Halter, they call the AI behind this the Cowgorithm. Every collar sends about 6,000 data points per minute back to the platform. 1 million collars have already been sold. And over 2,000 farmers in Australia, New Zealand, America are all using this system already. And in March of this year, 2026, the company raised $220 million and have a $2 billion valuation. Okay, before the onset of this Cowgorithm, most of the time when you try to herd cattle, and we'll talk about cows in particular, it was a fence or a shepherd dog, I think that's what it's called, or a shepherd. All of those things were designed to put something in place of where the cows can't go, something, and then the cows, kind of physically blockading them from going where they need to go, or where they would like to go. And that boundary was something physical that existed in the world. Halter, they moved this boundary into the cow, because it's all patterns and behavioral conditioning now that happens within the cow, the entity itself. I'm sure most of you know Pavlov's dog, but if it doesn't ring a bell, let me explain. Effectively, it was an experiment designed to showcase conditioning. Okay, hear me out. So what Pavlov did is that he rang a bell every time he fed his dog. And the dog would associate that bell sound with food. And then what he started to notice is that when he rang the bell, even if it wasn't dinner time or whatever, the dog started salivating. And this neural signal of the bell became a trigger. And that is what is coined classic conditioning. And it's kind of exactly what the Cowgorithm uses. The sounds, they become a boundary, and then the cow's nervous system does the rest. So what this company does, in light of Pavlov's findings, it has a neural cue that is trained into a behavioral response. It's actually quite well understood. There was a 2024 study that confirmed that cattle trained through conditioning showed lower stress. So we know from this, we can see that the mechanism actually works, and the fact that so many farmers are investing in this, it means that people see this as a good thing, or something that helps at least. I think the deeper question comes in, what does this mean if we actually look at what we're doing here? Bernard Rowland, who is a philosopher and bioethicist at Colorado State University in the United States of America, he was a principal architect of the 1985 U.S. federal laws protecting laboratory animals. And he spent his career asking the question and trying to answer, what are animals actually owed? And his answer started with the simple idea that every animal has a certain nature. I'm going to get a little bit philosophical here, but bear with me. And this nature that each animal innately has, it's a set of biological and psychological needs that define what it is and how it is to live as that animal. So the cowness of a cow, or the dogness of a dog, or the fishness of a fish. It's a little bit harder to explain further than that, but if I say that, you kind of know what that means, right? And he called this the animal's teleos, from the Greek word teleos, which is a word of that means purpose or end. And his argument was that respecting animal welfare means respecting that nature. He was an advocate against not just animal suffering. Obviously, we need to stop that, but it's not just that, but allowing the animal to live in a way that expresses who it is and what it is. A cow, it moves through space, it grazes, it looks out onto the landscapes, goes there and there deciding where to go to find food, I assume. And a physical fence doesn't necessarily change that. Hear me out. A cow would still want to cross over the fence. It just can't because there's a barrier in the way. But the Cowgorithm, it actually changes quite a lot because there's something different that changes here. It trains the cow not to want to cross that boundary. So before, a physical fence meant you just can't. If you want to go there, you just can't. Here, this virtual line in the Cowgorithm is kind of saying you don't want to go across here and training that kind of in their brain. It's the desire itself that is being shaped. And the boundary moved from being physical in the world into the animal's nervous system. And is that better or is that worse for the animal's welfare? We don't really know the answer to that. The cow, she may experience less stress than she would if there was a herding dog running after her telling her where to go. The collar may cause her less stress, but then you can argue and say that she's navigating space according to a pattern algorithm that's kind of been installed in her, not according to how she's reading the world and navigating it. So Halter is now expanding into Ireland, the UK, and Canada literally this year. This is going live in new farms daily. At scale, this means tens of millions of cattle who move through the world with boundaries that are created in their head by humans. Whether that's a better life is debatable. I don't know the answer to that, but it does feel a little bit icky. But a lot of the trials have said that it's not harmful, but it just feels gross that we're kind of mind controlling something, right? But what this technology does open up, specifically for humans, is that this logic of the Cowgorithm is not unique to just cows. A recommendation algorithm that you have on your phone for social media learns what you respond to and then delivers more of that to you. A social media algorithm learns what you feel is slightly uncomfortable and shares more of that, so it keeps you more engaged on these apps. Nudge architecture that's built into a lot of the apps that we have today that slightly feed you and nudge you in particular directions. None of these things are putting a physical fence in the way of you. They're just slowly navigating your behaviors or changing them iteratively day by day until, sometimes people don't even recognize their own behaviors because they've kind of been shaped by something else. But we can say, Bianca, the cow and the phone are not necessarily the same thing. And I'll say, I agree with you. A cow in the hierarchy of life doesn't have much power, so it kind of just does what it's told, or if its behavior is being conditioned, it just kind of does that. It doesn't really rebel against it in a way that humans can't control, without getting a little bit ugly there, but still. But a phone user, you can put your phone down. What I can say is the algorithm that is nudging you, conditioning you, changing your behavior is not that much different from this Cowgorithm. But this is an interesting one, because when you put it in perspective of ourselves, you start realizing certain things where you're like, ooh, am I being behaviorally changed because of this? And I'm like, I think maybe I am. Whether it's the intention of the tech or not, it's still happening. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about this one. But I'll check you guys on the next one.